Hello, everybody. This would be the first of the video series we'll be having, and um, as I would be taking up from where I left on Monday, which I briefly introduced to you the context of the book and what it is referring to. So let's do it again. Well, what is the book War in Blood about? Who is the author? We clearly see that the book is about AIDS and the spread of HIV diseases, HIV and AIDS in Southeast Asia, this particular region. Um, and again, Southeast Asia geographically refers to all those areas comprising, starting from Burma, and then comprising of Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia, Malaysia. Even though there is not much reference of Indonesia in the book as such, but it does comprise of those regions. When we refer to Southeast Asia, it's all these countries which fall under this Southeast Asian region of Asia. So then we will move. Who is the author? We see the author bearer is a medical professional who visits this region. Mm, And what is he talking about in chapter one? Um, which place? And he visits this place called Phang in Thailand, which is northern part of Thailand, closer to Burma. And what do we see? What does he see in this place? He sees a widespread of AIDS everywhere in the region. And another interesting thing he sees is the gap between the cities and the countryside. He explains that by initially in the chapter where once he lands in Chiang Mai, the second largest city in Thailand after Bangkok. He vividly explains all the big high-rise buildings, all the shops and everything. And as he leaves the city towards Fang, he sees all those things disappearing. And you can see that, countryside is not as developed as it is. So you see that there is an uneven development of regions in Thailand that we see. And then what about the healthcare system in this particular place called Fang, which bearer visits? And what about to be specifically, what about the clinic? Clinics are the representation of healthcare systems. And what about that? Surprisingly, those clinics are very clean, and you have all the doctors and nurses in place. Then the author raises what's the effective way of combating AIDS spread? And we all know it's pretty straightforward, it's the antiviral drug. Antiviral drug is the most effective way to combat AIDS spread. But why is it not being used all over the world then? If that is the thing, then whom all you can use it everywhere and then you can easily stop the spread of AIDS, but it's not being used everywhere. One of the reason is highly expensive, and third world countries and developing countries have this challenge of procuring those antiviral drugs because it's expensive. Then the question now is becomes the question of public health. So we should always keep in mind that we, in this chapter or in this class as such, we are not talking about how to combat AIDS. We are not here to stop spreading of AIDS. We are here as a class, we will be talking about the question of public health. What is public health? In the readings, I think in the week 2 overview, you have a reading assigned by me, which opens up in Google page. You can see in page 12, end of page 12, there is a very nice quotation by this German hygienist, whose name is Rudolf Virchow, who says public health is the union of politics and medicine. So that clearly synthesizes the concept of public health, which we are interested in. And also the book in the same readings, you see in the page 14, you have a whole list through which one can combat HIV AIDS. And it very clearly lists, and I quote, that essential element in the fight against AIDS might include condom promotion, distribution, and improved detection and management of sexually transmitted diseases, access to clean syringes and needles for injecting drug users, rigorous screening of blood and blood products, widespread implementation of universal precaution in medical setting, broad public education campaign, and target intervention for those at high risk. These are very clearly laid out in page 14. So this is not, but we are not interested in these things. We are interested in um, the question of public health, the question of policies, and as I said, we are interested in how and why only some methods are used over the others in tackling the AIDS spread. So it becomes a question of policy choice. Why particular policy is chosen over the other? What creativity is used by these various societies in dealing with AIDS spread? And it's also the question of political will. Do the people within the society make policies to tackle AIDS a priority? What is it their priority to tackle the AIDS spread? That's where the political will come into picture. Then the question of education. Do the society, the population within the society, have the level of education to understand and also deal with the spread of AIDS? Then there is this concept, there is this phenomenon, freedom of information, and this flows both ways. One from a freedom of information for the government about the victims, and also for victims about any policy information about from the government about any policy decisions towards AIDS, um, treatment of AIDS, or stopping the spread of AIDS. So it's those flow of information is also important. So all these factors play a crucial role uh, in combating AIDS, and this is what we would be interested in. What policies those societies would do. We see accordingly, and that's what we would be interested in. By Friday, as part of assignment, you will explore three key variables contributing to the spread of AIDS. So, as a background to this, I would take this opportunity also to explain a bit about the concept of cause and effect. So let's discuss a bit about cause and effects. What constitutes a cause and what is an effect. Even in this case, since we would be dealing with causes of HIV/AIDS, and the effect is policy decisions taken by the various governments, in this case by Southeast Asian countries. So as a background, I would like to explain a little bit about cause and effect with an example. So what constitutes a cause and what's an effect? Let's use an example to understand the phenomenon. As an example, let's say, does income of parents affect the SAT grades of a student? Here, the income of parents is a cause and SAT grade is an effect. One caveat is, it's not that, always the income, higher the income of the parents, the higher the grade. There are always outliers. There can be, low income parents, kids having high SAT score, and vice versa. But on a general uh, trend, if you observe, say, 100 cases, 70 and 70 to 80% shows that trend, and you always have those 20% which go either way, and that's what we are referring to, and that's where the cause and effect comes into picture. So if you graphically wants to present the cause and effect relationship, can be represented as a cause as x-axis and effect as y-axis, in a graph, if you want to put it in a graph. And statistically, this is also called dependent and independent variable. So if you plot that in a graph, this is how it looks. X-axis, the cause is income of parents, and you see that, uh, you see each dot is one case. As I mentioned, there are these cases where, low income people, this person has high grades. So those are outliers, those are those 20% I am referring to. And at the same time, you have high income parents with the low assets. So these two extremes are those 20% I'm referring to. But in most cases, if you start plotting, you see that, as parents' incomes increases, their SID grades also increase. Higher the income and higher the grades. But it's also there is also many other factors which is leading to this trend, which I will be explaining to you in the next video, and we will talk in more detail about the cause and effect in the next video.